I got this question about what advice would I give to a younger version of myself, or just somebody young and potentially in my position at the time. And I think it's a good opportunity to sort of reintroduce myself and talk about how I got where I am today and what I've done and all that sort of thing. Because the last time I did one of these videos, I had like 2,000 followers on here, and we're 10 times that now. So hello to everybody new. I'm sure the majority of you, in fact, don't come from TikTok, because every time I do pimp myself on TikTok, no one moves across. So pretty organic growth, I would say, for the most part. So yeah, let's do a bit of a recap, shall we? So for the last 4 years, my job, in some form or fashion, granted each year the primary income sources have changed, but we'll get through that, is making videos. It's something that I always wanted to do, because as a kid, even as a teenager and a young adult, I'm 26 by the way, I never knew what I wanted to do as a job, and there was quite a few times in my life where my not knowing what to do, combined with the jobs that I was doing, were decently looked down upon, and people thought I was failing because I hadn't achieved certain things by certain ages and things like that. I learnt to drive late. I moved out late. In reality, I don't feel like I really did move out late. It's just that I'm being compared to my siblings, who are both in their 40s, and therefore when they moved out at like 20, world was a little bit different back then, you know? I really didn't like school. I didn't get a university. I don't have a degree or anything like that. I went to college. I failed college. And then I did an apprenticeship. I was made redundant from that apprenticeship. So like, me and education, me and qualifications, we really haven't really ever gotten along. Like, ever. When I was in high school, I was under the impression that university was more school, and therefore the idea of doing that was insane to me. I was like, you're telling me that people voluntarily finish education, they can leave and do whatever they want, but they decide, nah, 3 to 5 more years, and they've got to pay for it and be in debt. And they're choosing to do that. The only benefit in my eyes back then, it was a stupid point of view, I know, but I was sheltered and didn't know any better, was that university would mean at least you could wear your own clothes to your lessons. I was under the impression that university was like school, where you go and sit in a room for another 6 hours a day, and it just, in hindsight, it wasn't. And I learnt that when I got with my partner. When my partner was at uni, I would visit her. She went to uni in London, and I obviously, through that, I learnt what uni was really like, and I was like, yeah, I missed out by not doing this. In hindsight, I probably would have liked to have gone to university. I still don't think it would have been very helpful at all, because the job that I do now didn't need a degree, and I still, if I had have gone to uni, don't know what job I would have had, because it's a bit of an interesting one. The only family members that I have that like I'm ever been very close with, I suppose, are my nan and my mother. I have lots of other family members that I don't see or speak to very much. For example, I've got 2 sisters that... Okay, right. Full family tree time, because my family is very convoluted. Basically, my dad was a bit of a wrong'un, and through him, I have like 6 siblings or so that it's at least 4. Somewhere between 4 and 6 siblings. We don't really know. It is at least 4 that I know of. Like 4 that are currently alive. Never met any of them. So they don't really count. We don't count those. Then through my mother, I've got 2 more sisters who they have a different dad to me. And like I said, they're in their 40s. But because they're in their 40s, I didn't grow up with them. You know, I didn't spend much time with them. I don't speak to them very much. Right now, as I think about it, it's been over a year since I spoke to either of them. And the last time I did was because my nan died, for example. Through those 2, I also have something like 12 or 13 nieces and nephews, something crazy. And I don't speak to them all that much either, because the older ones that I would like to like go out and have a drink with and see, they don't live very close, so it's kind of difficult, and the rest are all really young. But yeah, so realistically, I don't have many family that I really speak to. Anyway, that tangent was because the point of that tangent was no one in my family did education either. No one's got like a high up job, really. I don't come from much money at all. My mom told me a couple of years ago that the most she ever earned in a year was like £20,000. She's retired. She's like nearly 70. So yeah, no one in my family has like done the whole corporate route. If we compare like my upbringing with my partner, for example, they were very much about, her family were very much about sending her to uni, getting her a good job, like a clear defined career and life path. And they all also have that same sort of corporate lifestyle where they all did that. But no one in my family did that. So like I wasn't even aware what uni was like. I wasn't aware that education could have done anything for me in terms of career long term. I couldn't have told you jobs that the education could have led to. If you'd have asked like 13 to 16-year-old me what jobs were out there, I would have struggled to tell you more than, I don't know, doctor, surgeon, nurse, vet, policeman, fireman, work in a shop. Like, you know, your traditional stuff. It was one of them where I didn't have any like influence around me to do well in life, I suppose, because I didn't know anyone that had done well. We're often a product of the people that we surround ourselves with and the circles that we have. And if your family didn't do very well for themselves, I suppose, or didn't encourage you to do well for yourself, or weren't able to help you navigate that aspect of your life at that time, then you might yourself struggle. And I suppose that I did. I hated school and education to the point where in both high school and in college, I had like attendance problems. In high school, I had meetings with the education welfare officer that I had to do every week, where they were convinced there was something going on at home. There was, but we never told them. My dad was a not nice man. He ran off when I was 13. It's fine. And then realistically, I just didn't like going to school because I hated it. I just wanted to stay home and play games because that was my like peace. That was my like away time, I suppose. Nothing ever really changed there either. But the one thing that my mom and my nan did do when it came to trying to like influence me career-wise were being like, you're really well-spoken, and for some reason, like my family is all from Warsaw. Everybody sounds like a yam. It only comes out in me if I'm like getting frustrated. Like for the most part, I just sound like this all the time. It's why people assume that I come from money, because I know that I sound a bit posh and I know that I'm pretty decently well-spoken, but I think it's just because I read a lot of books when I was younger and lived on the internet. So like that and not really being around the majority of my family very frequently meant that I didn't really get the accent, you know? And I never really left the house. I don't know. The accent just skipped me. But they were like, you need to use the fact that you're well-spoken and you're really good with computers and get a good job because of that. And I was like, I don't want to work with computers. I don't want to sit. It's funny. At the time, I was like, I don't want to sit inside all day working at a computer. That sounds boring. I want to do something practical and like move around. There's nothing that I could think of that I would hate more than having to sit inside all day and never leave the house. Whoops. Because I do that anyway, but at least I do it on my terms. I remember the first job that I ever wanted to have. I wanted to be a zookeeper because I loved animals. I still do love animals. If I drive to the gym, and pretty frequently, if I drive to the gym at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I drive past this field, and in this field there's tons of these big furry cows. And every time I get to the gym, after having driven past these cows, I always message my partner. I'm like, one of these days, I'm going to park up and I'm going to go hug one of them cows because they look so huggable and furry, and they're always like leaning over the fence. I love animals, I always do. Always did. And in year 6, when we left primary school, we had a little book, and in this book we had to like write like future aspirations. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember I wrote in that zookeeper. So when the time came to leave high school, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. My year was the first year at school where we had to legally stay in some form of education until we were 18. So that had to be college, sixth form, or go do an apprenticeship. Ideally, I would have just have liked to have gone and found a job because I didn't like school, did I? But I was like, right, I'm going to go to college and do something abnormal. I'm going to go do animal care. I'm going to go work with animals at college because at least that's going to get me out. My college experience was, I went to animal college. I spent my entire year pretty much, because I only did 1 year of college, in overalls and wellies, and we built animal enclosures, we cleaned up after animals. The college that I went to had an on-site zoo. It's pretty crazy. Like, they've got animals that I don't really think should be in this area of the world. I'm like, why am I seeing lemurs on a daily basis? They feel like they should be somewhere else. Capybaras, things like that. Like, what is going on here? But it was a pretty cool experience. Like, I always say that if I could repeat like 1 year of my life, it'd be that college year, because I really did enjoy it. Made some good mates, had a ton of laughs. Because, okay, this is, in hindsight, again, this was a bit stupid, but this is what I did. I chose to do level 2 animal care, even though I got the GCSE requirements that I could have done level 3 animal management. But my logic behind it was I didn't know what I wanted to do as a job, not really. And I had to stay in education until I was at least 18. And I was like, I don't know if I'm even going to like this course. So theoretically, what I could do is I could do the level 2 course first, because it's only 1 year, and do the level 3 course after, where it's 2 more years. And then that would be 3 years working with animals, and it'd be great fun. And that settles me, that gives me 3 more years of buffer time. You know how a lot of people go to university, not because they have got a career in mind that they want to go and achieve, but because it gives them 3 or 5 more years worth of time to figure something out. It gives them time to be like, right, I don't have to sort my life out until this is done. It gives you that, right? So I was like, right, I'll do level 2 first, then I'll do level 3. And the tutors and things at the college were like, you shouldn't be doing level 2. You're not. This is for people that did less well at high school. Like, to the point where the level 2 course was designed around also having to fit into your class timetable maths and English. But I didn't have to do maths and English because I passed them at GCSE. So like I would have 3 hours all the time with nothing to do, and we just go dick about. It was great. But, and this is the big but, like you heard me say earlier on, I failed college. Reason for that was I had to do 150 hours of work experience, and I got really unlucky with this. To the same mindset I still have now, where I get things done. I was like, I'm going to get these done really early and then not worry about it. I'm going to just grind it out. What they intended you to do was every Monday, you would do 8 hours of work experience, because they don't have college on a Monday. That was what you were supposed to do with your Mondays. But instead, what I ended up doing was I wanted to just front load it, because they didn't. You could have done it over the weekend, you could have done it over half term. So long as you got your 150 hours signed off, you were cool. So here's what happened with me. First of all, to qualify, you've got to be working with animals for this work experience. That in and of itself straight away is a barrier to entry. Because I would hazard a guess that if you have a think about it now, where near you, as a 16 to 17-year-old that cannot yet drive, and doesn't really have people that can drive them to places, nor much access through bus or train, where are animals near you that you can go and just work with, that doesn't require a qualification, that will accept someone that just needs to do work experience? Not many. We don't have like pet shops really, you know. Pets at home would have been okay, but the problem is that you got to remember, I'm not the only one that needs these work experience hours. There's 30 other people in my class, and God knows how many other classes on the course. There might be 150 people that need 150 hours of work experience, and there might be like 3 valid options within a 30-mile radius of me for me to be able to do my work experience. So what ended up actually happening was, first of all, very early on, in September of that college year, I got a work experience placement at like a pet shop that did have animals. I did like a full week. It was horrible. All I did was sweep floors, which was really frustrating, because it was just... it was a bunch of like middle-aged women that were talking down to me the whole week. It was horrible. They ended up not counting those hours towards my 150 hours of work experience, because apparently they did some sort of check and they didn't have some sort of insurance that would have been required for them to be valid. So I was like, great, wasted a week. Now what? Few months goes by. I find, because it takes this long to find different work experience placements, I find another one. This time it's a blacksmith at a farm. And I was like, right, this could be ideal. This is something that's going to be like up my alley. It's going to be physical working, because I wanted to be physical. But the problem was the blacksmith wanted me to write him a letter about how working with him would further my career in blacksmithery. And I was like, mate, I just need to work with you. Just tick me a box that says I was here for 8 hours. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I don't like... So that ended up falling through as well. Then I managed to go and work at a stables with... because my mom had a friend, and the friend is a horse girl, and the horse girl has a stable, and there's a woman that owns the stable. So I went to do hours at this stable. But then they didn't have insurance either, so they got stricken off. And at this point, like, this happened like 4 times, where 4 different placements fell through or something like that. And eventually, in like June, what they do, the college, they told us, by the way, guys, any of you that are struggling with work experience, you can come in on a weekend and do work experience on the animal unit at the college. And I was like, and you didn't think to tell us that 6 months ago. No one thought to tell us that. Really? Thanks. So I did a few hours there, but I was still so far behind in terms of the amount of hours that I need that it was just not going to happen unless I literally spent every weekend and every like day that I wasn't at college there for the rest of like the school year. And genuinely at this point, My entire class had already come to the decision that none of us were going to stay on to do the level 3 because we didn't want to. Because something this course did that is a little bit absurd if you think about it is every week they would have somebody from an animal-based profession come in to tell us to not work with animals. They would get vets that would come in and be like, yeah, it's a satisfying job, but it's really sad when you got to put someone's pet down. Or they'd have some zookeeper come in and be like, yeah, you earn no money at all, you go home smelling a shit, and the only way of earning a little bit more money, but still not very much money, you'd still earn more being like a receptionist or something, is if you work with something that might just, kill you. And I was like, oh, okay. They did this every week where somebody would come in, tell us, you don't want this job. And then literally, it's now been 9 years since I left college, and I do not know a single person on that course that stayed on to work with animals in any capacity. None whatsoever. Even the people that went in with the objective to do vet nursing and become an actual vet or a vet nurse, an actual career path, not one of them even did that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So by this point in the year, it was June, I hadn't got enough work experience hours. I'd literally done all of my coursework to distinction level because it's level 2 stuff and it wasn't exactly difficult. But because by July 7th or whatever it was, I hadn't done the 150 hours of work experience, I failed the course. And it was as if I'd never done it at all. But I had a really good time. It was a good year. I'd repeat that year if I could. So it was like, well, now what? Because I still have another year that I've got to be in education. What do I do? At this point, it was nearly September, and the cut-off for when I was supposed to be back in education had rolled around, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was looking for apprenticeships because I was like, I want to get paid, I want to earn money, I want to work. And what popped up was kind of convenient, like really convenient, because again, I still didn't have a clue what I wanted to actually do work-wise or career-wise, but the primary school that I went to as a child was located about 3 minutes from the house that I currently lived in at the time, and an apprenticeship to be in the office came up there, and I was like, I could do that. It'd be full-time hours, I could do that. So I went to be an apprentice, working in a primary school that I went to as a child, and it was very nostalgic, and I was there for almost a year. I was there for a full school year, so September through July. The problem is that the school that I went to at the time was currently under special measures via Ofsted. Ofsted had placed them in that we're going to come back every few months to make sure that you ain't messing up any further, and if you don't fix it soon, we're going to remove the head teacher and replace him with one of ours and turn you into an academy, because the government had had enough of this school and how poorly people were performing in it. And basically, there was a big problem where the headmaster was just a horrible guy. No one liked this man. None of the staff respected him. No one. Under his control, the school had gone completely downhill. The woman who was the headmistress when I was there ruled it like the iron fist. The teachers that were still there from when I was that worked under that headmistress considered her like Margaret Thatcher. She was like the Iron Woman. But under Ofsted, they were like exceptional back then. But once I left and this guy took over, it all went downhill, and he was just a horrible man. I'll tell you some stories in a minute. But while I was at this school, I was the youngest member of staff by a solid 2 decades, maybe 3. And there was also only 3 men in the entire school, staff-wise. There was the headmaster, there was the caretaker, and there was me. And what this meant is that I ended up doing all of the menial tasks. Anytime anything physical needed doing, anytime anything needed walking to the other end of the school, it would be me. I remember at one point, it was like an egg and spoon race going on at like the castle in the town that I live in. And they were like, yeah, you've got to do this because none of us can because, well, look at us. And I was like, what do you mean, look at us? What would you have done if I wasn't here? But it didn't matter, of course. I had no say in the matter because I was 17, turning 18 at the time. I had to push this kid, a pretty large child, in a wheelchair to the top of this massive hill while they roll eggs down it. And then later that day I saw him running around and I was like, what? I mentioned it when I got back to the office. I was like, what's going on there? And he's like, oh, he can do short distances, just not long. And I was like, oh, great, okay. But basically, I was a bit of a slave the entire year, and they were really kind of horrible to me. And they made me do tasks that were outside my scope of work. For example, I was marking tests and things like that. I was a business administration apprentice. My main core duties were answering the phone, monitoring attendance, and logging events such as behavioural performance things and stuff like that, and arranging meetings with real teachers and real like members of staff. But occasionally they'd have me mark tests and things like that, which is absurd. And at one point, right, they pulled me up because they were like, okay, we need a chat. You need to see us at like 3 p.m. I was like, oh, well, technically I'm finishing work at 4, but okay. They pulled me into a room and they were like, we checked one of these tests to see if you'd marked it accurately and you haven't. It's awful. And I was there like, well, I'm not a teacher. I don't know the standard. They were like, we gave you the book. And I'm like, I'm literally not qualified for this. I was being paid £2.50 an hour, guys. Back in 2016 or 15, I'm not sure, the going rate for an apprentice was £3.30 an hour. But because I worked in a school, they pay you pro rata, which basically that works out to, they pay you a little bit less while you're actually at the school working, so that when it's half term, when it's the 6-week holiday and things like that, they can still pay you. Which meant that I was being paid £2.50 an hour. And I was like, I am literally not getting paid enough for this. They were always picking on me about my handwriting and things like that. At one point, they called me in and were like, Kale, have you ever been tested for dyslexia? And I was like, no, but I also don't think you're allowed to ask me that. Like, I'm pretty sure that's some sort of discrimination. To be fair, my handwriting is pretty bad, but, you know, no worse than like half the other members of staff that were there. And at one point, not the deputy head teacher, but the assistant head teacher, so like third in command, she was always lovely to me. She, like, when I was walking around, she tried to collar me. She had noticed like how the staff were treating me in that office and were like, Kale, are you okay? And I was like, I'll be all right. And at one point, I think it was like February, the head teacher announced there was going to be a staffing restructure at the school. And we were all given some timesheets sort of things where it sort of explained how it was going to look. And basically, each department had lost some hours. So like teaching assistant, minus 60 hours. Key stage 2, key stage 3, and then the office. And the way that it was put is office, minus 30 hours. There were 6 of us in this office. Do you think that 6 people lost 5 hours? Or do you think that Kale lost all 30 of his? Kale lost all 30 of his. But more to that point is that the teaching assistants, there was a whole drama for the rest of this year because of this. The teaching assistants, all of them, every single one of them, even the ones that had been there since I was a child, some of them had been there for like 20 years, all of them were forced to reapply for their own jobs, but knowing that like 3 of them were not going to keep it. And that caused so much drama. Like the amount of like backstabbery that was going on in that school, I'm surprised that it didn't have some sort of knock-on effect to these kids. And it's interesting. It's really interesting because I know for a fact that it's been long enough that some of the kids that were in like year 5 and 6 when I worked at this school watch my video. So I bet if any of you are watching this, you're thinking, oh, this is interesting, juicy gossip. There was so much drama. But yeah, basically, I was informed I was being made redundant, which I'm pretty sure I later found out was illegal. You can't make an apprentice redundant on the grounds... full stop, I don't think, because technically they're being paid. The government, because it's a government-run scheme, isn't it? The government pays the school to employ me under an apprenticeship. But of course, being an apprenticeship, it meant that I was also having college work that 1 day a week as well. But the apprenticeship was supposed to last for 18 months. And I was only like 6 months in, if that. And I had to go and have a chat with my assessor at the college and tell him, being like, they're making me redundant. And he was like, well, you've got 2 choices when it comes to the college work. Because obviously there's 18 months worth of college work to do. The course is 18 months long. I'm supposed to be working my way through this coursework outside of the school. But what he said was, and this I remember thinking, oh, here we go again, is I can either quit that school today or find somewhere else to work and carry on the same qualification in a different location doing business administration somewhere else. But it'd be on me to do it. And I just remember thinking, you know what? I don't care. I don't even like doing this job. It was at this point I'd turned 18, so I was old enough that I could drop out. I was like, I don't care anymore. I don't even want this qualification because I don't need it. I'm never going to use it. I just did this because I had to do something between September 20 2016 and May 2016 when I turned 18 till I was legally old enough to go somewhere else. I literally remember thinking, I'm going to go work in a supermarket, because in a supermarket, all the staff are like 18, all the staff are going to be my age, it's going to be brilliant. And ironically, that's what I ended up doing in the end, but we'll get there. But the assessor tells me, no, that's not a choice. Well, so basically, I was told that my last day of work was going to be the same day that the kids break up for the 6-week holidays, the end of the school year. But I was obviously told in February that I was being made redundant. So I had like a few months of college work left or something like that. A few months of work time left. My idea to the assessor was like, how about I just stop doing the college work, accept that I will fail the course, continue doing the work hours at the school until I am made redundant. And he's like, no, you can't do that. You have to continue. He's like, if you continue working at the school, even if you're not going to be able to get it all done because of the time frame, because it's an 18-month course and between February and July isn't very long, you have to continue the college work. And I was like, right, okay. So what ended up happening was I decided I'm going to attempt to I told him, I was like, right, you know how normal courses work, where they feed you each piece of coursework after the previous one has been completed and stuff like that. I was like, no, that isn't going to work here, because there's 18 months worth of course to do, and I've only got 4 months left to do it. I was like, you need to give me all of the coursework and I will do it all. I will work through it all with my TISM brain. And he was like, we can do that. So I was like, okay. What I started doing to get the work done more efficiently was, there was a lot of downtime when I was at the school, because again, a lot of my jobs that were like supposed to be my jobs when it comes to working at that school were really early in the morning. It was attendance stuff, and obviously attendance stuff is like before the kids even turn up, and then event logs and stuff. So I had a lot of downtime when I wasn't running around doing jobs for people that really weren't in the criteria of job that I was supposed to do. And I decided I'm going to start doing my college work at work, because what? Are they going to moan at me? It's their fault that I have to do it. I have 18 months worth of college work to do in 4 months. So yeah, I feel like I'm within reason to do it while I'm at work when I'm not doing real work, because there's no real work to be done. But that lasted for maybe 1 month before the head teacher noticed what I was doing. Granted, I wasn't exactly hiding it, because I'm working in an office with 6 other people pretty close shoulder to shoulder. Like, everybody's got their own little desk. And he's like, Cale, you can't be doing that. This is work time. And I was like, mate, I'm only having to do this because you are illegally making me redundant because you are awful at your job. Do you know what really satisfied me was maybe a year and a half after I left this job, he was removed, I'm pretty sure. I think he might have stepped down, because they do that. You know, when places offer you the opportunity to make yourself look better, where it's like, leave or we'll fire you, one of them. I think he stepped down, maybe. But either way, he didn't end up working there any longer. And so that was that. I did get that qualification, by the way. I did successfully get it all done in time, because I didn't want to fail 2 qualifications in a row, especially, yeah, because that would have really annoyed me. So I did get the business administration qualification in the end. Granted, never going to use it, because who cares? It really was irrelevant. And then after that, I did go work at Tesco, because I said I was going to. And the Tesco pay was about 4 times what I was getting paid at the school, so that was brilliant. And the problem is, I was there too long. You know, when you start working a job like that, it really is supposed to only be for a little bit while you figure life out. The amount of times people would ask me, oh, are you at uni then? No, this is it. And then I met my partner, like, a few months into working there. And granted, she had this career path set in stone for her through life, where she knows exactly what she's going to do, because it's been set in stone by her family that this is what she's going to do. They weren't best pleased that she was dating somebody with my career path, or lack thereof, or my upbringing, because of where I'm from. And I remember my nan would always be like concerned with how well I was doing in life, or wasn't doing in life as well. And everybody was just always so judgy. Like, one of my sisters would constantly, if I did speak to her, be bragging about how she moved out when she was younger than me. She learnt to drive when she was younger than me, and all that sort of thing. But again, she shouldn't really be bragging about that, considering, 20 years prior to that, which is nearly 10 years ago now anyway. It's like, in in the 90s or late 80s or whatever that was, I'm sure it was a little bit easier. Thanks. I'm sure driving test standards in 1992 were a little bit more lax versus 2020 or whenever I did mine. A more accurate comparison, if she wanted to make one, would have been comparing my path versus her son, because my eldest sister has a son who, he's only like 3 years younger than me, and bro is smashing life, to be fair. He's got a master's degree in engineering. He's doing all right himself. And I really want to go for a drink with him. If he watches my videos, message me. I don't know, I should message him first. My family's a bit messed up. So yeah, I ended up working at Tesco for quite a few years. So it's 2016 through 2019 unbroken. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do for a job still, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. At this point though, I'd been into the gym for a few years, and people had been like, you could be a personal trainer. And I was like, okay, so let me pitch to you how being a personal trainer is pitched to young people, because this is how it used to get pitched. I don't know if it's still accurate, it probably is, but the numbers are probably higher because inflation. Personal training in 2019 or so, the minimum a personal trainer that is freshly qualified will charge per hour is about £25. Now I think 40 is more the going rate, but back then maybe £25 an hour. So imagine telling a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old or whatever, somebody very young into the gym, somebody that likes the gym, imagine telling them that they can get paid £25 an hour to be in the gym all day and train people. Sounds brilliant, doesn't it? Let me correct you on that one. We'll get there. So I'm like, okay, I could be a personal trainer. I'm gonna go become a personal trainer. I'm gonna do my personal training qualification. The personal training qualification in the UK, and to be fair, the entire planet, is a little bit of a joke. It's very easy to do. It shouldn't take any longer than 3 months. But in the same note as I did my business administration qualification, I remember I told my assessor when it came to doing my personal training qualification, bro, just give me all of the work now and I will get it done. Like, rather than like drip feeding it to me as and when I see you each week, just give me all of it. I'll get it done. You can mark it and we can all just get this over with. So I think in the end, the course took me about 2 months. And then I thought I was Billy Big Bollocks here. I thought I was being headhunted, because at the end of doing my course, I got an email from the manager of my local Pure Gym, where I'd been training for a few years anyway, offering me a job with no interview. Just, we'll hire you. I hadn't even finished my qualification. They were like, we'll hire you. And I was like, technically I hadn't finished the qualification, so I couldn't earn any money. Let me explain to you how being a personal trainer in the UK works. It's changed a little bit, and I'll tell you how it's changed, but here's how it worked when I was a personal trainer and while I was training to be a personal trainer. Personal trainers that work at Pure Gyms and commercial gyms and such do not get paid. Instead, they work for free. A personal trainer at Pure Gym, when I worked there, will do 3 5-hour shifts per week unpaid. And in return, the gym will not take anything they make while personal training. So that £25 an hour, the way you get that £25 an hour is you have to get yourself clients from the gym floor. Your job, realistically, is marketing. You've got to speak to people and get really good at speaking to people. And again, most personal trainers are not good at that. It's why I ended up personal training so many personal trainers on how to be better personal trainers. You've got to make money as a personal trainer, you have to have clients, but you've got to get yourself the clients. And you're also not allowed to personal train clients while you're working. So during your 3 5-hour shifts, you can't PT people, which makes it really hard for you to get clients during your shifts. Because think about it. If you're talking to people and engaging with and getting clients while you're on shift, you can't train those people while you're on shift. But what time of day do they like to train? It's the time of day that you're on shift. You see, the problem is that if you're talking to people that are at the gym at, say, 5 p.m, because you're on shift at 5 p.m, you're going to have to get them to change the time of day they train if they're going to personal train with you, because you can't train them while you're on shift. Do you see the problem there? So what you actually have to do is, not only do you work your 15 hours for free unpaid, you've got to then go in outside of your hours during hours where you want to be busy. So say I was a personal trainer again tomorrow and I wanted to be busy at like 8 p.m. I need to be in that gym at 8 p.m, talking to people, making friends, showing my face, getting known. Even if my shift was earlier that day. And at the time, I still could not drive. And I hadn't quit Tesco either. So for a while, I was doing Tesco and personal training at the same time. And I was like, right, what am I going to do here? Here's my day. I'd get up at like 10. I'd walk an hour to Pure Gym, which would take me, so say it's 11 when I get there. My shift might begin at, say, 12, because I'd leave myself leeway room in case I was slow or anything happened or like I needed to train myself. And then I'd be on shift 12 till 5, and then maybe I had a couple of clients, because I was still very new. I wouldn't have had many. And then that's then what? Say here's how it actually happened. Actually, story time is, say I finish my shift at 5, but I've got a client at 6. Well, I can't go home because I can't drive, and it's an hour walk either way. So it'd be like, right, I'm just going to sit around twiddling my thumbs and go speak to people again for another hour. So now 7. So now finished at 5, had another hour to kill before 6, where I had a client from 6 till 7. Okay, now it's 7 o'clock. Maybe I have another client 7 till 8. Awesome. And now it's time for me to go home. So it's 7 till 8, time for me to go home because I had 2 clients that day. I walk home, it's now 9 p.m. I left the house at 10 a.m, it's 9 p.m. Of those hours I've been paid for 2 of them, I've made 50 quid. Do you see how that isn't very economically viable? This is why, fun fact, when I worked as a personal trainer at Pure Gym, they send you on a course where they tell you 80% of personal trainers, once they begin personal training for the first year, quit within their first year. 80% don't make it to year 2 of personal training. And it's because it's so hard to get clients, because the skills that you need to be a good personal trainer are not just be good at gym. It's not just be able to lift a lot. A lot of people become personal trainers because they enjoy the gym, but they don't realize that their clients are probably going to be people that really don't enjoy the gym. It's going to be middle-aged people, because again, this I could talk about this topic for an hour on itself. I'll try not to, because this video is probably really long already, but like, a lot of people, when they become a personal trainer that are pretty young, say you're an 18-year-old, you become a personal trainer, you think that you're going to be training like people your age to be bodybuilders. That isn't how this works. You're going to be training Susan, 50 years old, mother of 3, in her spare time because she wants to lose a little bit of fat and look better in the mirror and drop a couple of dress sizes. That's who your actual client base is. Do you know why? Because they're the people that can afford you. An 18-year-old can't afford that 25 quid an hour. Not really. They're probably struggling to pay off their £120 a month Corsa, along with their like other things they're paying for. Like, personal training is a luxury. It really is. And most clients in a public gym are going to be middle-aged folk. So you've got to be able to relate to people that are not your age. I'm pretty good at this, to be honest. I get along really well with everybody. I always have. Like, every echelon of life, I can speak to people pretty well. I'm decently well-spoken. Where was I going with this? My train of thought just derailed. Give me a sec. Anyway, so I'm personal training in Pure Gym for a while, as well as working at Tesco. And then I quit Tesco, because I'm like, right, personal training. I'm just going all in on this. Still couldn't drive. Very silly thing to do. Shouldn't have done that. But I ended up being like, I went on holiday, and I was like, this is awful. Because what ended up happening was, I went on holiday, and I was like, how does this work with being, with the shifts and stuff? Because they don't pay you. So theoretically, on paper, as far as the gym was concerned, you are self-employed. You are. So theoretically, you should be able to take your own holiday whenever you damn well please. But with Pure Gym, that wasn't the case. They made me, or made us, find our own cover. But the way that actually ended up worked is you had to do shifts in advance on behalf of other people. So what I would have to do is I'd have to go to one of the other personal trainers and be like, look, I'm going on holiday. Can you do my shifts for me that week? But of course, they have their own shifts to do as well. So they would have to then obviously move all of their clients around and find that 15 hours extra a week. They'd do their own 15 hours, and now you're asking them to do your 15 hours a week unpaid. So it's a hard sell. It was so hard to find cover for stuff like this, because nobody's going to want to do that, are they? Like, logically, even if it's your best mate, why would they? So what you actually have to do is you have to be like, right, you have this week off, I'll work your shifts. Yeah? And I remember I had to do this all the time, because to be real, the gym manager at the time really took advantage of me. I ended up doing so many other people's shifts and running other people's classes, which, by the way, once again, running the classes, you're doing all that for free as well. They're not getting paid. I remember I was in that gym all day, every day, and like my relationship was suffering because of it. Because again, my partner was at uni at the time. We were barely seeing each other anyway, because that was uni in London. I don't live in London. I was at this Pure Gym constantly. I was having to work weekends, and being a personal trainer is not sociable in terms of the hours that you work at all. So like when she was home, when she could be home, I was still being there. So she'd come and sit in the gym. She'd pay for a membership at the gym, and she'd come just exist in there. And while I'm like doing my patrol, we'd just try to chat, you know. It was a whole time. So I was like, right, I need to go back to working at Tesco as well, I think, and maybe rethink this a little bit, because I don't know if this is working out. So I get my Tesco job back, and then I'm like, right, I quit personal training. But then, lockdown. Lockdown hits. So personal training for everybody goes out the window, for everybody. And I'm like, right, so that choice was out of my hands anyway. And then I'm still working at Tesco again, which you've got to think about how awful I must have felt. I was like, I finally escaped this. I've got like a career path in mind. It's going to be great. And then with like a tail between my legs, end up back at Tesco again. As a grown adult at the time, I was like, I don't know how old I was at this point. I'm losing track. But either way, lockdown hits, and it's like I was still working at Tesco because essential worker, innit? Like shifts don't just stop. But I saw a gap. I started making videos on TikTok. I was like, the fitness information on TikTok is awful. It was abysmal at the time in 2020. So I started making videos on TikTok. And within a few months, I had 10,000 followers. I was mostly talking about fat loss because the gyms were shut, so I couldn't really do much else. And through that, I started personal training, but online. I was an online coach, and I helped people lose fat. And very quickly, that outpaced the amount of money I earned at Tesco by a lot. Even at 10,000 followers, I was able to do that full time. And I was like, this is real money now. Like when I was working at Tesco, I never earned more than... My biggest month was Christmas 2016 at Tesco, where I earned £800. Woo. You know, every other month, because I just hated Tesco as well by the end of it for like years, because it's retail. Like, you know, everybody when they start a new job has that glow in their eye. With retail, you lose that quick. Everybody knows that. By the end, I was doing no overtime. I hated it. I was getting paid 280 quid a month or something like that. And I was like, I'm a grown adult getting paid 280 quid a month. What am I doing with my life? So anyway, the TikTok with 10,000 followers, I was able to go full-time online coaching. I didn't ever want to have more than 30 clients. At the time, I was charging £100 for an online client, because that is what a new personal trainer would have charged if you were in a Pure Gym. Somebody that's freshly qualified, and at this point, I'd been qualified for over a year or whatever, and I'd had experience, and I'd helped tons of people lose fat, and I'm really good at losing fat. It's my thing. So there was that, and it was great. But then TikTok kept growing, and the gyms reopened, and my content was able to expand, and I made different style of videos. And then everything blew up. I went from like 10,000 followers, and then the gyms opened, to 100,000 followers. And then within a month of hitting 100,000 followers, I was at 200,000 followers. And then a few weeks later, 300,000 followers. And a few months after that, like 400,000 followers. And at that point, I was like, I had a waiting list of stupid numbers of people. By the time I had 100,000 followers, my online coaching waiting list was huge, because I never wanted more than 30 clients. A lot of online coaches will have hundreds of clients, because you could feasibly do that, but like I liked work-life balance. I earned enough at 30 clients that I was pretty chill, especially compared to what I earned at Tesco. It felt insane to me. And I was like, what am I going to do here? And with supply and demand, it's like, well, I'm going to have to put my prices up. So I put my prices up, and that like halved the amount of people on my waiting list, but not enough for me to, you know, decrease the amount of people applying. So with supply and demand, you have to keep putting your prices up until supply reaches equilibrium. And I did that, but it was like, how can I monetize the fact that I have 400,000 followers? Because at the time, TikTok didn't pay at all, really. The old Creator Fund, it was nothing. So I was like, I can sell programs, because that's what everybody does. But I need my programs to be really, really good, because I used to hate the way people's programs were. Because the problem with a program is that without context, it doesn't help you. So I tried my best to make a program that was contextual to anyone's individual circumstances. So for example, if you buy a gym program from me, you can still do that, by the way, link in bio. All of them are 100 pages long. Each PDF is 100 pages. It comes with an exercise skeleton so that you can build your workouts based upon this set design, regardless of what kind of gym you're in. It was built for some people in a bodybuilding gym or some people in a Pure Gym. I travelled around the country going to as many different gyms as I could so that I could use as much variety of equipment as I could, so that no matter what options you had available to you, whether you were training at home, whether you were training in a commercial gym, or whether you were training in the bougiest gym possible, you were capable of using this program to your best device. And I contained as much context as I could, and I put it up for 25 quid in 2022, I want to say. And the day that I released those changed everything for me. And then this was where things really got a bit weird. I released those on a Friday night, and by Monday I'd made £10,000 off them, because just the sheer numbers alone. 2 weeks after that I'd made £30,000 off it. It was mental. That year I earned more money than I will probably ever earn again in my life. And that's something as a young man that you kind of have to come to terms with a little bit, and is a weird one, because typically the career trajectory for most people is you only ever earn more until you retire, really, you know? Or maybe you step into a less paying role because you want a better work-life balance. But for the most part, 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s, the scale in terms of how much you earn only ever goes up. But because of just how much those programs sold, combined with the online coaching at the time, it was insane. And you can imagine now, I was A-OK in certain people's books. Yeah. So that really changed my life, just how well those programs sold. But it also made me rethink what I was using my time for. Those programs sold well enough that it made me think, I don't need to do online coaching anymore. Because what's the point of... Because online coaching was real work. It was stressful. Because it was people's lives that I had to positively impact and really make sure that I was doing my best to be helpful with, you know? And so what I did was, I closed my application book. Well, no, first of all, what I did was, I put my application price up, like way, way up. I doubled it. I was like, you know what? I will double my price, because that should mean no one wants to work with me anymore. If I don't, basically... as an example, if you guys watch fitness content, Greg Doucette charges like $15,000 or something like that per month for online coaching, right? Or something along those lines. He charges a lot of money per month. I would hazard a guess that he probably doesn't actually do much one-to-one coaching, because he earns an extreme amount of money through his YouTube and through his supplements and through his other businesses. That extremely high price point barrier to entry is so that he doesn't actually have to do it, you know? So I tried that. And it worked, and I stopped. Basically, what I ended up doing is I stopped filling my book back up. As I would lose clients, I stopped filling people back in. And something I always did as well is I would always grandfather people in. Like, I had people paying the same prices they paid when they first started up with me for years. Like, I had some clients back in the day that had stuck around with me for years, so they paid the price that they paid on day one, even though realistically I should have been charging them more, because everything in life increases with time, you know? But I just never increased it because of loyalty. Like, they were never going anywhere. It got to a point where I kind of had to... One of my clients, bless her, it kind of got to a mutual point where it's like, we've been at this for a very long time now, and I think you know that I'm basically done, and I became like an accountability buddy, where it's like, if she was effectively paying me, because I think if she didn't, she might not have gone to the gym as frequently as she should have done. She didn't necessarily have like a certain goal in mind anymore. There wasn't necessarily something we were working towards. It wasn't like, for a lot of people when they come to an online coach, they've got a goal. They've got a wedding, they've got a family event, they've got a reason for doing this. But for a lot of people, it ends up just being accountability. Like the 20 quid a month or whatever your gym used to cost you isn't enough to get you off the sofa to go to the gym. So paying an online coach where you got to check in with them every week was. But anyway, I stopped filling in my slots then, because I was like, I don't need to do this anymore, because why do I need to earn £3,000 a month through online coaching when I could just sell 4 programs a day and make the same amount? Just 4. If 4 people, bearing in mind I get millions of views on my fitness content at the time, because it was the thing. At the time I didn't have the gaming counts or any of that. It was just all in on fitness. I was getting hundreds of thousands of views a day, and all I had to sell was 4 programs a day to make £3,000 a month. And that would have been more than enough. Because remember, 6 months prior to this, I was earning 280 quid a month at Tesco. And prior to that, I was earning £250 a month working at the school. And prior to that, I was failing, you know? So like, I was like, I guess I just become a full-time influencer. So I stopped coaching. I just let the numbers dwindle until they finally did fizz out entirely. Because of my large following in fitness and my views and such, I became sponsored. To this day, I'm still sponsored. Shout out My Protein. They pay me a salary. They pay me commission. So again, that's another income source that keeps me pretty chilling. And it's like, there was just no need for the coaching anymore. So I just stopped and became just a full-time video maker. And that was my main thing, selling the programs. But eventually, as I did expect, of course, they stopped selling as well because, that's how things work. Logically, the business-minded would have made a new program and sold them again. That's what every company on the planet does. I've got an iPhone 13, there's a 14, a 15, and a 16 after it that are all basically the same thing, and the same people buy them every year. The same thing goes in fitness world is fitness influencers, they will make new programs and sell new programs and the same people buy it, and realistically I should have done that, I'd have made a lot more money. But I didn't want to do that because I would feel a little bit disingenuous, because in reality, it would say the exact same thing. It just would. Because again, I covered everything so extensively in that 100 pages, in my opinion, that for the sorts of people that are going to buy it, it's all they needed to know. It's all they needed to get to where they wanted to be. It covered everything I possibly could. And all I would be doing if I made them again was rewording it. And I didn't want to do that because it felt bad. I was like, what am I going to do now? And I was like, right, I can kind of just be chilling a little bit. I'm gonna start. I still love gaming. So I made a gaming account as well. I started videoing that, and very quickly that blew up as well. Like I had 100,000 followers in gaming before I knew it, and it was crazy. But I wasn't making any money out of it because there was no way to make money on TikTok at the time, and it wasn't like fitness where I could sell a product or anything like that. But I was enjoying it, so I wasn't entirely too bothered. But I did that for maybe a year. I was getting extreme amounts of views, like 30 million views a month, but not able to earn a penny, and it was really frustrating. And I tried to get people to come across to YouTube so that I could like make videos here, and it just didn't work because those gaming videos, like, realistically, right? Gaming videos on YouTube when you play through games don't do what they used to do. The days of people doing Let's Plays and walkthroughs and things like that are done. But the way, in terms of like new people entering the scene and being able to make a living off of it, you've got to be very, very, very lucky or very, very, very funny. And I'm not exactly the funniest guy, I know. So it's like the way that I did it on TikTok didn't translate very well to YouTube, and therefore people just don't move. The way TikTok works is people do not move. They just will not. I said this at the very start of this video where TikTok is a very fickle place. A lot of your followers won't even like you. It's weird. But you can't get someone on TikTok really to move. Like, maybe literally, I bet the statistic is about 1 in 10,000. If I made a video saying, guys, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, and it got 10,000 views, I'd be lucky if 10 people did. I really would. But yeah, so YouTube, I sort of stopped and started many times, and it was frustrating because as somebody that at this point I'd been doing social media for a few years as a job, I'd obviously earned a pretty extreme amount of money through the fitness stuff. I knew the potential was there, and I knew that through these views I needed to be earning somehow, because the problem is I was putting so much time into the gaming side of things, social media wise, that I was neglecting my fitness account. And to be fair, I haven't ever really stopped neglecting the fitness account since then. I've barely done much I've not grown in fitness in maybe 2 years at this point, because I haven't tried to. Because I kind of succeeded, I did what I didn't even set out to be that big. It just happened by accident. But like, I ticked the box, I did everything there was to do. I earned a ton of money. I got sponsored. I was chilling, But obviously, there's a part of my brain where it requires me to be highly productive. And my brain defines highly productive as, is the time that I'm spending right now making me money? Because it should be, It got to the point where I knew you got to be making this direct comparison, right? If I put the time that I put into that gaming account into fitness, I could be making tens of thousands of pounds easily. Because again, 4 people a day buy a program, that's £3,000 a month. Just 4 people a day. That's not that hard to do when you're getting hundreds of thousands of views a day. But I've foregone those hundreds of thousands of views a day because I focused where my passions were truly laying at the time, which was the gaming side of things. Because I loved it. I still do love it. It's what I'm doing right now. This never stopped. This is the last leg of this journey, nearly. We're nearly at the end. But so basically, I let my income lower itself because I wasn't putting in the effort where money was being made. And it did bother me a little bit, but it was something that I accepted. And then something called the TikTok Creativity Program came around. And basically what that was, on paper, is TikTok started paying people for videos above 1 minute. And as long as you uploaded 1 minute and 1 second, that's fine. That's why every TikTok video is 1 minute and 1 second, pretty much. And the amount they paid you was extreme. It was £1 per 1,000 views. Yeah? I've just told you that my gaming content got 30 million views a month. That would be £30,000 a month just for gaming views. So I was like, Jesus Christ, this is going to change my life again. But it didn't quite play out like that. Here's how it really played out. First of all, there are requirements here. Only views that are qualified will pay you. A qualified view is a country that has the creativity program, which isn't all of them. And it has to be a view that is longer than 5 seconds. Now, TikTok is the platform that killed attention spans, so most people don't make it 5 seconds into a video. Checking my retention statistics, generally 5 seconds in, only about 40% of people are still there. So say a video on TikTok gets 100,000 views, 5 seconds in, there might be 40,000 people still there, which means I'd get paid for about 40,000 views rather than the 100,000 views the video got. Which means that back then, for 100,000 views, I might get paid 40 quid. So it did work out really quite well for me, obviously, for a while. However, it was problematic. It was fickle because there is no humans at TikTok. It doesn't matter how many followers you have, trust me. I have seen people with tens of millions of followers on TikTok complaining about TikTok where they can't get a real person on the other end to ask them a question or solve a problem because there's no humans. Everything is hush hush, it's hidden, you got to figure it out yourself. And what I have seen every month since this creativity program came around is that once you cross about 60 uploads in a given calendar month, the amount you get paid per 1,000 views, which is called your RPM, started dropping. So I would notice that after 60 videos, I started getting paid less and less per video. And I was like, this is a problem. Because the gaming videos, my style of gaming video is short clips, like a minute clip, minute highlights of whatever I was playing. And if I'm doing a full playthrough of a game, you can imagine that very easily that is... You got to think, if a clip is a minute, yeah, that means that I can only upload 60 minutes worth of footage per month before I'm not getting paid very much. And I play games like it's going out of style. I beat a game a day often, and that could be 8 hours. But I can only record 1 hour, 60 minutes. I can only record 1 hour of footage and post an hour of footage of any sort and get paid properly per month. So this threw a real spanner in the works there. And what that meant was, and to this day I'm still trying to find ways around it, is I started making new accounts. And I grew, 3 more, maybe 4 more accounts to the requirement of 10,000. So to get paid at all, you've got to have 10,000 followers. That's just the requirement. So I grew a few more accounts to 10,000 followers so that I could get them in the fund as well. And I discovered through that each account then gets 60 videos per month. And I was like, okay, this isn't ideal, but it'll do. So I was like, right, I got 3 or 4 accounts here. That gives me 180 videos a month rather than 60 getting paid. But the problem was, and the problem is to this day there, that obviously if I'm posting to an account with... I will hit 60 videos very quickly in a calendar month, and then I'm supposed to abandon my account for the rest of the month. Then when I come back to the account, the videos that I post initially aren't getting very good views because I've not posted in ages, you know? If you post every day on TikTok, you'll get pretty consistent views. But with the way that it's set up where 60 videos is that limit, it's like I'd have to abandon an account for weeks because
Before they introduced the pay at all, I would upload 20 to 30 videos every day, which would mean that after just 2 days at that rate, maybe 3 at a push, I would hit the cap. And then what? First 27 days of every month I'm not getting paid. Brilliant. And the other thing on TikTok is it's unpredictable, is that you can upload and a video can do 3,000 views, or it can do 300,000 views, or it can do 3 million views, and there isn't much that says which way that's going to go, especially with the sorts of videos that I do. But because of the amount of videos I did, the total view numbers would still add up to a hefty amount. But because each one of those videos counted towards your 60, regardless of how many views you got, it didn't end up mattering. Or doesn't end up mattering, and it's a stressful time on TikTok, which is why I began the move over to YouTube this year, where YouTube is a lot more stable. YouTube doesn't punish you for doing well. TikTok does. The other okay, yeah, let's keep going with that. We're not the YouTube era yet. We're not there. I'm jumping ahead. The creativity program beta ended up finishing, and it became the creator rewards program, which is the finished version. And what they did is they slashed how much you get basically in half, or at least mine did, and lots of other people's did as well. Nowadays on TikTok, I get about 50p per 1,000 views rather than £1, which obviously makes it even harder to earn a living. Basically, the only people that earn a living on TikTok through their views alone are the people with extreme amounts of views. Every video, like the ultra successful. That is not how any other social media platform pays you that works. On YouTube, right now, with 20,000 subscribers, I could almost kind of survive if this was my only income source. And I only have 20,000 subscribers. I only get about 250,000 views a month. Just 250,000, you know? On TikTok, you've got to be the top echelon before you're even capable of surviving, which is nuts. On YouTube, if the equivalent echelon of success on YouTube, you're a millionaire in real life. You are. Like, the guys that have got like tens of million on TikTok, if they had tens of millions on YouTube, they're millionaires in real life. That's just how that works. It's crazy. There are levels to social media on all platforms, right? But the level gap on TikTok is massive because of the problems with the creativity program and the creator rewards program and all that sort of thing. So, started growing the YouTube channel, and again, it's very hard to get people to move across. I also made a Patreon because back in the day, there was, again, I felt shitty making a Patreon, and I still do, kind of. Like, sometimes people ask me what do they get if they subscribe to the Patreon. Honestly, you don't get anything, because I already never stop making videos, like, ever. It's 2 o'clock in the morning as I film this. I'm never not working. My brain doesn't turn off. This is the life I've built for myself. But my goal, I'm determined to make gaming a viable thing in a non-stressful way, or a less stressful way. I could always, this is the thing, right? And it's always in the back of my mind. If I wanted a completely peaceful life, I could tomorrow start online coaching again. Because you don't need a massive following to be successful at online coaching. I know online coaches that bring in multi-six figures a year with 10,000 followers, because that's all you need. You don't need hundreds of thousands of followers. If you've got hundreds of thousands of followers as an online coach, you can be earning so much money that it's nuts. But that is not where my passion lay, and that's why I stopped doing it. And then I also went and stopped doing as much fitness stuff because my passions waned there as well and became all about the gaming stuff. I chased down my passions and it forwent the money. And now the goal is to turn this passion into something that can make enough money for it to be a good thing long term. And it's working. It is, because YouTube is growing and everything is working. Something I've become very good at is social media. Through all these years, I've grown so many different social media accounts now to the point where they can earn. And I've helped so many other people do things. I helped one friend on a certain social media site, as it were, because it's cross-transferable skills. I helped her get to a point where she started making 6 figures like a month in her career through social media advice. And like, that's another potential outlet for me one day too, if I ever decide to go that route, is I could do social media coaching as a job too. But because I'm chasing my current passion is just gaming content and talking about games and collecting games and YouTube. This is the current passion. So that brings us up to today. So I suppose, I've given you my life story here, or my adult life story, I suppose. Circling back around to what advice would I give my younger self or people in that sort of situation is never give up. Never let people tell you that you can't do something. I remember I was told once that I'd never, more than once, that I'd never amount to anything. That because of the upbringing I had, that because of where I came from, because of the people I was around, that I could never do a thing. But I did it on my own for myself. At the age of like 23, I was bringing in 6 figures a year. I don't anymore because, again, I sacrificed that because I want to do this. But I did that. And there's not many people who can say that. And like one day, this will be very profitable. One day. Because I'll make it profitable. It's never paid to bet against me with any of this. It's something I've got very good at over the years. Is it something that will last forever? No, probably not, because nothing ever does. But I have the skills to be able to do something else should anything happen. And again, I've got the roots in and out of other things. And if I ever did need to, I could online coach again, because again, these days the going rate is about 150 quid. If I had 30 clients at 150 quid, which wouldn't be hard to achieve, that's £4,500 a month, and you'd be pretty sorted there. I would be anyway. I don't know about you guys. So yeah, the younger version of me, don't give up. You'll figure it out. If you're someone young and you don't know what you're going to do, that is just fine. But try a lot of things. Try everything. They say never work with the general public, children, or animals. And I did all three before I was 18. You know, I did all three of those as a job. I did so many different things. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I failed tons of things. Everything was against me. It felt like when I was like 15 to like 20. It felt like a fail just because I never got anything done. But I did do well for myself in the end and build a life that younger me could only dream of having. Like that's the comparison I often make is I often compare myself to what other people are that are doing better than me, because typically that is how you end up making yourself do better, as you look further ahead so that you can look down the road that you're currently on and make sure that you're actually progressing down that road. But realistically, it is helpful to also look back and look at who you were, and would the person you were before be happy about who you are today and where you got. And younger me would be ecstatic if I told him how life turned out. Could never have predicted it because it was mostly accidental with like how I fell into things, but you figure something out. Like I say, I've been full-time with social media now for 4 years, and each of those 4 years, a different thing has paid the bills every year. Whether it be online coaching in year 1, whether it be programs in year 2, whether it be the creativity program in year 3, whether it be YouTube in year 4, every year, it doesn't matter. You just keep figuring it out. And that's all we are doing as humans in life, I feel, is we are all just figuring it out, regardless of the path in life we chose, regardless of how far ahead we are versus people our age, or how far behind we feel like we are sometimes. We're all just figuring it out. And if you just keep putting one step in front of the other and trying different things, you'll get there. Don't be the guy that doesn't ever try anything, doesn't ever step out of his comfort zone. Just keep trying new things. Don't let other people and what they might think of you impact what you do. I remember when I first started making TikToks, I felt like an idiot because I was an adult and I was like, this is a platform where most people are dancing, but there was fitness content, but it's not very good fitness content. I never told anyone any of it. I didn't even tell my partner. I wouldn't let her know until I hit like 10,000 followers, until I was succeeding, because I didn't want anyone to know. I'd already failed so many things that I didn't want to be another embarrassment, especially saying, like to this day, I don't particularly enjoy telling people, oh yeah, I make TikTok videos as a job. I'd much prefer to tell people that I was a YouTuber, which we're on our way to doing. It's one of them where never give in. You'll figure it out. Pick up skills. Learn things. Learn that success leaves clues in anything that you try. It wouldn't matter what job I wanted to do. If I was to decide tomorrow that I want to be something else, I would look at the people who are already doing it successfully and try to take clues from that. Wouldn't matter what it was, that's out of the way. If I decided I was going to be a plumber, I'd look at successful plumbers and be like, what do they do? Because that's how you succeed in things, often. So if you're watching this, God knows how long this video was. I feel like this has got to have been at least an hour, because there's at least 2 20-minute segments where I've spoken non-stop with no script, by the way. And in one take, I've deleted nothing of this. This is about as raw as I think a video has ever been. You can do it. You can. Anyone that's ever wanted to do social media as a job, you absolutely can. You just got to make it work. Like I said, you don't need hundreds of thousands of followers to be successful. You really don't. Like, you can do it. I was full-time with things at 10,000. That's all. Granted, that was a niche where it was kind of easy to turn it into money, but like, figure it out. You will figure it out. That's what you got to do. Figure it out, you know? Just keep going. No matter what. You'll be alright. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've watched this far into the video, comment saying you'd like a cookie. because this is a particularly long one and a bit of a different one, I suppose. And yeah, I suppose I'll see you guys later. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Christ, my hand is very dead. I didn't even put you on the tripod. I'm still holding it. See you in a bit.